All right. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Couch Warrior podcast. As always, I'm your host, Mike. And today for UFC Louisville, I'll be breaking down the card with my guy, Brady from DFS by the Numbers. And soon to come, Dan will pull up from Half the Battle. Going to be a good time. This is episode 100 of the Couch Warrior podcast. I'm super hype about it. It's been a long grind. And I thought, what better way to celebrate 100 episodes than bringing on the guys who I used to watch before I got into this and who made me want to do content too. And those people were Brady, they were Dan, and unfortunately Clint, he can't make it with us. He was also up there, but he's a little busy and that's all right. But really looking forward to breaking down this card. We got 14 fights to talk about, all of them pretty fun in my opinion. Brady, how you feeling about this card, man?
Pretty it should be all right. We talked about it before the show. I think from a fan perspective, I'm really looking forward to this card. I think the matchmakers did a really good job in terms of, putting together a lot of fun fights. From a betting perspective, a lot of these fighters are kind of sketching me out, but I'm sure we're going to find some spots here. And yeah, congrats on episode number 100, 100 episodes. That's no joke. So shout out to you for that. And yeah, can't wait to break down this card. Can't wait for Dan to hop in here as well, hear his thoughts on some of these fights too.
Yes, sir. And I was looking back at my channel today. I'm kind of sad. I'm like missing 14 episodes. I purposefully left like my first ever episode on because it was Brady. I don't know how your first episode was, but mine was so bad. Like I've watched it back. It was so terrible. And I like to go back and remind myself how far we've come. And unfortunately, it's missing right now. So I got to figure that out. But yeah, it feels real good to be here. Let's catch up with the chat real quick. Covert Big Bet, you are indeed first. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad you clicked that link. Luca, my brother from Georgia. What's up, my brother? CT, stick with YouTube. YouTube's good for the numbers. It's good for the algorithm. And thank you. And let's hop right into it. Before we do, I am going to take a little bit of a shot just to celebrate the occasion. It's been a while since I did tequila on the show because I tend to get a little bit out of hand when I do it, but should be okay today. Cheers, my brother. Cheers to everybody watching. Appreciate you all. Now let's kill this card. So first up, we've got Puja Tomar versus Rayanne Amanda. Tomar, she's 8-4-0, 30 years old, 5'1". We do not have her reach, but it does look pretty short to me. On the other side, Amanda, 14-7-0. She's 29. So she's 1 year younger, 1 inch taller, and she's got a 62-inch reach. Brady, why don't you start us off? You betting Tomar here?
Absolutely not. I'm not doing anything like that. But what I will say is it's kind of funny seeing Rayanne Amanda as a minus 300 favorite in the UFC, but I think that just goes to show you how bad Puja Tomar is. And quite honestly, like a lot of people were talking crap about her when she first got, signed to the UFC. And, going to tape, my expectations were like really, really low. And I guess she surpassed my expectations a little bit because on the feet, I think her striking's okay. She does throw with very bad intentions, but what I think is going to be her downfall in the UFC and in this matchup specifically is going to be her ground game. She kind of looks like a fish out of water on the ground. Rayanne Amanda is a black belt in BJJ. In theory, Amanda should be able to get this fight down to the mat, and if she does, I think it's going to be her world, and I think she can go out there in style on Tomar. On the feet, I think it'll be a fun fight, actually. Both these ladies want to bite down and throw hard, but I just think there's a huge advantage on the ground for Rayanne Amanda. Minus 300 type advantage? No, I mean, you can't lay minus 300 on Amanda. So it is a pass situation from a money line. I would not touch either of these money lines. But from a prop perspective, I don't hate some type of violence. You're not getting the best odds on it. But I think somebody does get finished here. And I think it's more than likely Amanda getting the fight down to the mat and getting either a TK or a sub in this one. Just not sure I'm going to, put any money on this one, though.
So I can't interest you in Amanda parlayed with Brad Katona?
I think it hits, but no.
But all right, let's my guy Dan is here. What's up, Dan? Thanks for coming on, brother. How you doing?
Doing excellent. How are you? Good to see you, Mike and Brady.
What's up, Dan?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But Dan, any thoughts on this fight?
I mean, Brazil versus India. I got Brazil.
That easy.
Not just in fighting, in soccer too.
But okay, that's a breakdown right there. Yeah, for me, look, yeah, Brady said it all. It's Puja Tomar. I'll tell you right now why it's minus 300, Amanda. You know why? Anshul Jubli. That's why. Ever since Anshul, anytime there's even a word about an Indian fighter, they get crapped on, and probably rightfully so. Even though I still stand by it, I think he's a good fighter.
This has been going on long before Anshul Julie, my friend.
Hey, recency, man. Recency.
Let me talk about a guy named Arjan Bueller.
Oh.
Let me talk about a guy. Who was the guy that Song Yadong choked out in his debut? Barrett Kandare?
I don't remember.
Yeah, Barrett Kandare. I know my boy Brady remembers.
I remember Arjun Bowler, that's for sure. That guy was hilarious.
Yeah, so Song Yadong, like, he's known for being a knockout artist. He like standing guillotines this dude like out cold, first round. Sayonara, konnichiwa.
Very well might happen here, bro. Very well might happen here. I mean, Tomar, like the way I see it, she is also training with Jubilee, which is amazing. But I will say, like, I think her striking isn't that much worse than Amanda's. I think her striking is actually okay. She mixes in the kicks pretty well into her combinations. The kicks are pretty fast. The hands are all right. She seems to have some power. And all the women who beat her, they're actually pretty decent like fighters. So it's not like she's losing to bums. It's just that she's beating only bums. But yeah, the ground game's abysmal. Every time it goes to the ground, she gets finished, whether it's a TKO or a submission. Amanda, I think she's cleaner on the feet. Maybe doesn't have the power of Tomar, but I don't think it's going to matter much. I don't see Amanda getting chinned here. I think she does go for the takedown. She didn't in her last fight. I mean, she was fighting a literal like BJJ specialist. Like that's her thing, Alenkar. And I thought she won that fight personally. I didn't have any money on it, so I didn't really care, but I did think she won. And I do think she can mix in the grappling here. I do think she can get the sub. Not betting the submission prop at plus 200. I think that's a little bit pretty crap. It's pretty crap. And I wouldn't be shocked if she came out and got ground and pound. So then I was looking at Amanda ITD, also a shitty price. So now I'm considering fight doesn't go. Plus 105 at strawweight, women's strawweight. Also pretty shitty. So it's looking like more than likely I'm going to pass. I'll be looking at like Amanda round 2-3, maybe something like that. But other than that, I'm good on this fight. And I think most of us are.
Yeah, the submission prop got bet down to plus 165, which is interesting.
Just no point at that point. Just play like TKO. I mean KO, because like a ground and pound can 100% happen here, and it's happened before to Tomar, right? I think it was Fairtex who got it. She was literally like asking to be choked, and she just got ground and pound TKO'd right there. But we can move on to a little bit of a better fight, I would say. We've got Cody Stamann versus Taylor Lapilus. Stamann is 21, 6-1, 34 years old. He's 5'6" with a 64-inch reach. Lapilus, 19, 4-0. He's 2 years younger, same height, but he's going to have a 9-inch reach advantage. Dan, why don't you start us off? What you got here, brother?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's tough for me here is that it's almost like minus 300 Lapilus. And Lapilus and Cody Stamann have something in common. Every single fight they have is like this 50-50 like decision, So I don't really get minus 300. Like Cody's not a dude that you just run through unless we're talking about like Aljamain Sterling or Saeed Nurmagomedov or something like that. So Taylor doesn't really do stuff like that. Taylor's always been a guy who like he's got good skills. He's a solid French kickboxer. His takedown defense and get-up game have gotten better over the years. But he's always been a guy that's kind of like underwhelming, like doesn't do enough, doesn't separate himself by a wide margin. And Stamann, you could say the same thing about him. Like he fights close with everybody. So, I mean, I think this is pretty clear dog or pass at odds like these. So I'll go Stamann.
All right, fair enough. How about you, Brady?
Yeah, I agree in terms of it being a dog or pass. I think it is a good matchup for Lapilus. I think Lapilus has the takedown defense, the get-up game to keep this standing. And then on the feet, he will have a 9-inch reach advantage. I think he'll have the better striking. But this is a fight that's minus 325 to go to the scorecards. And when you're talking about laying minus 300 on somebody who's going to win or going to go to decision more often than not, it gets kind of sketchy, especially with these judges, man. I don't know. I mean, the judges have always been, bad, but it seems like as of late they've been like piss poor. Some of those decisions from UFC 302. So that's a concern. Like nowadays, your guy wins the fight and they might lose just because the judges get it completely wrong. So I think there's a lot that can go wrong, like anywhere near minus 300 for Lapilus. But I'll pick him to win probably by decision. But yeah, it's a dog or pass as well. And I'm probably staying away from this one too.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. Like, I think the issue with judging right now is it's just so inconsistent. Like, for a while, it was control that scored a lot. Then really recently, it's been damage over control. Now it's like, who the hell knows? It depends on which judge is sitting there. And it shouldn't be that way. But that's why you really can't lay that kind of chalk on a guy like Lapilus. And I am high on Lapilus. I really am. I was super excited when he got signed to the UFC. I bet him against Colin, I think, at a pretty chalky price. I bet him against Basharat. That didn't work out my way, but I thought he looked pretty decent, all things considered. And I am not betting him here. Minus 260. I almost did it at minus 210. I know people who got a lower line, like minus 170, I think is okay, because I do think Lapilus has a significant striking advantage here. The reach will certainly help. He's not a guy who just dives into the pocket. If he has that reach, he will use it. He will strike at range, and he's good at it. And his takedown defense is very solid. His get-ups are very solid. So I do think this is his fight to lose, but the way the judging is, like maybe Stamann gets a few takedowns each round. Not much that he does with it, but it's enough on two judges' scorecards. And you're holding a minus 260 Lapilus ticket, and you just want to jump off a cliff. So probably not the best idea. I'm going to pick Lapilus. Not going to do anything with it. I was thinking like round 3 decision, but they already have the decision prop at like minus 185. So
holy crap,
it's not going to be workable or playable. And I don't really want to parlay him either. So yeah, I like Lapilus, but I'm not going to do anything with it. We can move on. Next up, we've got Eduarda Moura versus Denise Gomes. Moura is 10-0. She's undefeated, 30 years old, 5'6" with a 66-inch reach. Gomes 8-3-0, 24. She's 6 years younger, 4 inches shorter, and she's going to be at a 3-inch reach disadvantage. I'll start us off here. So I like Moura. I played her pretty early at like minus 158, I want to say. And I know that Gomes is a really hot dog this weekend. People love her. Everyone's lining up to play her. And I do understand it. Moura's untested. Moura, we don't know much about her striking. Denise does hit really hard. I mean, there's a reason I backed her against Bruna Brazil at plus 300. It's, you don't want to fade that power at such a high price, but she's not plus 300 here. She's like plus, 120, 130 now, plus 145.
Yeah.
I just feel like Moura does have a significant grappling edge, and I don't think she's like Almeida, she's like Jonathan Almeida, same camp, same build, just in a woman's body. And she fights like him. She doesn't stand there. She doesn't test her striking. She goes right in for the takedowns, and she gets them because she's super physical. She's got decent entries, and she's got good control because her jiu-jitsu is pretty high level. So I do think that while on the feet, it's Gomes all day. And if Gomes can stuff the takedowns, my ticket's going in the gutter, and Moura will probably die. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Moura comes in hot. I think she gets the takedowns early. I personally do think she can get the finish, but I don't care how she wins it. I just played the money line. I can see her grinding out a decision. Denise is pretty tough, but I do think that Moura takes this fight personally. How about you, Dan?
I don't know, man. It's like one of those where like this chick was favored over Angela Hill. You know what I'm saying? Talk about a market overcorrection. And you got to give her credit for those knockout wins. Like that's something you don't often see in the women's divisions. And they were against two good opponents. I mean, Yasmin Yaragui, I think that she's a bright prospect. Bruna Brazil, maybe not as much, but still, that was still a dominant win. It just comes down to the stylistics where, like, if Moura is going to be getting takedowns and be getting top control, then most likely she's going to win this fight. But on the feet, you got to mention Denise Gomes' big advantage, like massive advantage. If she can like weather an early storm, I mean, she could get like a second round knockout here or something like that. So I'm not writing that off the table. I think it's dog or pass, but I'm not sure because it's like, how good is Eduarda Moura really? Like Jailton can't fight for her. You know what I'm saying? Like is she on that level truly? I'm not saying she is or she isn't. I'm just saying I don't know yet. So I don't know. I think it's dog or pass. So I'm gonna go Denise. And also, you're talking about everybody's lining up. It says 82% to 18% there.
Bro,
I know that's
Tapology, and
Tapology.
those predictions are garbage, dude. You know what everybody does on Tapology? They wait, right? They wait, and then they'll just do whatever someone else did. Like whatever has the most votes, you pull up, you see Moura has the most votes. They'll just do that because it counts on your record and it's not for money. So
no, facts. Obviously,
out.
I don't even do that, but like, yeah, no, it just comes down to like, where do you rank her ground game? Like, really, like
For Moura?
Yeah. Like, how good do you think she really is? That's the question here.
I mean, it's hard because we're working with literally Ruiz and Janina Silva, who I think is like 5 feet tall. But to me,
but she handled them accordingly, though. She handled them accordingly.
And she came out there, she looked real good against Ruiz. I know it's Ruiz, but who is the other woman who has really good jiu-jitsu that Ruiz fought?
Amarim?
Yeah, right. And did she finish her in the third, I think?
Yeah.
Right. So it took her a while. Moura came out, did it faster, did it, in my opinion, more impressively. And like you said, she handled her accordingly. We can only work with what she's been given so far. And Gomes is definitely a step up. But for me, so far, she looks legit. How about you, Brady?
Yeah, I mean, if Charlton was able to step in and fight for Moura, I think this would be a lot easier of a fight to break down. But yeah, I feel like we don't know much about Moura. There's only, I think, 3, maybe 4 fights available against not the best competition. But what we do know is Denise Gomes, her takedown defense has not looked great thus far in the UFC. We saw Angela Hill, who has improved her ground game for sure over the last several years, take her down 5 times. And then Loma Lukbumi took her down 4 times as well. Yeah, and Moura, she's just big. She's physically strong. One thing I do want to wait for is the weigh-ins. I want to see what Moura looks like at the weigh-ins. I think she missed weight by like 2.5 or 3 pounds last time out. But yeah, if she does make weight and she is able to get this fight down to the mat, she's looked nothing but dominant on the ground. Denise Gomes, she will throw up submissions, but she hasn't gotten a submission yet in her career. I'm leaning Moura, but yeah, if she's not able to get the takedowns, if Denise Gomes is able to keep this standing, Gomes will knock her out. Moura's striking defense is terrible. Her chin's all the way up in the air. It's like she's begging to be knocked out. I can't lay -170 on Moura. I just can't do it. I think she could look -170 if she's able to get these takedowns, but I don't know. I'm kind of staying away from my money line. I was looking at maybe violence in this fight. I think either fighter's live for a finish, whether it's Gomes landing a bomb on the feet or Moura getting a TKO on the ground or a sub maybe. But I mean, it's -110 for the under at this point, which is insane for a strawweight fight. So I don't know. I think I'm staying away from this one as well.
Yeah. I was also looking at the under, and I was just like, damn. It's the same thing as I mentioned for the Puja Tomar Rayanne Amanda fight, right? Like, I think it's +105 for fight doesn't go, something like that, or -105 for fight doesn't go. It's kind of crazy for women's strawweight fights, but violent fighters, so it does make some sense. Moving on, though, I think we've got a more exciting fight. We have Daniel Marcos versus John Castaneda. Marcos 15-0, undefeated, 31 years old. He's 5'7" with a 69-inch reach. Castaneda 21-6-0. He's 1 year older at 32, 1 inch shorter, but he has a 2-inch reach advantage. Why don't you start us off, Brady?
Yeah, first of all, I think this is going to be a very fun fight. I think it could be potential fight of the night. Buried all the way down in these earlier prelims. But yeah, I like both these guys. Marcos undefeated. John Castaneda always brings it as well. I think it's primarily going to be a fight that takes place on the feet. John Castaneda does have a wrestling background. I think he wrestled in high school and then like 1 year in college. So yeah, he can definitely mix in takedowns. I'm not sure he's going to have much success in terms of holding down Marcos. John Castaneda, seems like he can get guys down, but can't really hold them there. So I do think these guys are primarily going to strike. And if that is the case, I do lean towards the striking of Marcos a little bit more. I like the volume and the way he mixes it up to the body, to the legs, to the body especially. And I think those body shots can definitely pay dividends a little bit here. John Castaneda, though, has a lot of power, and has a nasty head kick as well that he's landed, I think, like 2 or 3 times in the UFC, has multiple knockdowns. I think we have a 15-minute banger on our hands, and I think it's going to be a close fight. I think this close line is warranted. I think we're going to go to the scorecards in this one, and I'm going to edge out Marcos ever so slightly in this one to get it done. I'm thinking decision for Marcos here.
Makes sense. What's good, Steve? Thanks for pulling up, my brother. And yeah, real quick, CT. So for me personally, my only advice is if you drink before, because I don't know how it is in other states, but in New York and Jersey, when the cards pull up, I mean, a White Claw is like $20 and a shot is like 30 or whatever. So definitely drink beforehand. That's the only thing I can tell you, and bring the good vibes. Do you guys have any advice for CT?
Yeah, for sure. Move the comment though for a sec.
You can see your face.
Yeah. I mean, just have fun, use common sense. Like, for example, if you're trying to drive there with your own car, like, then I would figure out what the parking situation is well in advance. Like, don't just get there expecting to find a parking spot magically waiting for you. Like, that's something you need to figure out in advance. I would just take an Uber there. That's the easiest way to do it. Get there for the first fight. Don't be a casual and enjoy it. That's it. And buy the poster. I like buying the poster like of every event I go to and then framing them. So yeah, it's exciting. And if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, I'd say the best spot you can be is the rafters, like, but the first row rafters, like kind of the ones that it's kind of like, it's hard to explain. So the way it works on the floor is you have like the celebrity like section, then you have the general public, then you have like the UFC like type people. Like, actually no, the celebrities and the UFC are in one and the media is in another one, and then they have people and people. So you got to get in the first row of the rafters. I think that's the place to be. If you get on the floor, you got to be close up on the floor. Like, towards the end of the floor, it's not as good because it's all on the same level. So you're going to be behind a lot of people. But first few rows of the floor is sick. But if you can't do that, it's all about the rafters.
I've heard the same thing with the floor. People have told me don't buy it unless you're literally like in the first row.
Yeah.
Any advice, Brady?
Yeah, I sat on the floor in San Antonio towards the back on the floor, and yeah, you can't see anything. So you're pretty much just looking up at the screen anyway. So yeah, I agree. Have fun. And if you are going to drink, bring a lot of money because it is expensive. I think I spent $200 on drinks in Vegas.
On average, that's what I spend every time I go, around $200.
Yeah.
That fight was crazy. You guys saw that dude get like thrown 3 rows down.
Yeah, that was nuts.
That was banana. It's not like what fight was that even? There was not a fight on that card that deserved that kind of brawl, in my opinion.
The best fight. That was the best fight on the card right there.
Only knockout.
Yeah.
But all right, Dan, what do you think about this fight, Marcos versus Castaneda?
It's an interesting one. I mean, Marcos has been impressive as far as I'm concerned. People say the Grant fight was a robbery. I don't think it was that big of a robbery, if even a robbery. Like, if you really watch the fight, firstly, it says on the stats that Davey doubled him up on strikes, which I think is kind of questionable. That's like one of the few stats where I'm like, I don't know about that. Like, did he throw more? Yes, Davey threw more than Daniel, but Davey's shots were like hitting glove, hitting shoulder, hitting the air. Whereas Marcos, he didn't throw as much as Davey Grant, but what he did throw, like, he was popping his head back with some jabs, man. He was pretty clean at times. So I don't know. I think he's a slick little prospect here that's kind of quietly making a name for himself. And I thought that the performances have been getting more mature every single time. He's out of Peru. He's out of his comfort zone. He's in Florida. So you like to see that. And he's one of these guys that's not actually at a big gym. He's like at a gym that's like centered around him. Like, certain people do better in those gyms. Certain people do better in big gym. But apparently Marcos is one of those guys that likes it revolved around him. And then Castaneda, he's like paid his dues. Like, he's been paying his dues for a hot minute, man. So now you're starting to see like that last one against Kang. I'd say that was a career best performance, especially on the output, which was something that I always criticized from Castaneda. So this is a tough one. This is a tough fight. I think I'm going with Marcos. It might be a little biased because I've been picking against Castaneda every fight against Daniel Santos. Cashed a +175 there. I lost on Gafarov, and Gafarov I think he made it pretty close at times in that fight. And then Kyung Ho Kang got blown out as far as I'm concerned. But here it's interesting. Like all those guys were underdogs. This dude's a slight favorite, so I don't know. It's tough. I'm leaning towards Marcos, but like Tapology is saying 78%. I don't know about 78%. Like I think it has a potential to be very close.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Like going into the fight, going into pre-tape, looked at the line. I was like, all right, I might actually end up on Marcos. I'm usually looking to fade the guy. I faded him with Grant. I even faded him with our guy Arichi Lang over here, and I got saved. I got absolutely saved because he was beating the crap out of Arichi Lang. But for me, it's just like I can't tell yet just how good he is. We have like almost zero tape on his grappling. We don't know what his takedown defense really looks like. We saw it against like Simon Oliveira, which doesn't really tell me much at all. He stuffed most of the Brandon Lewis takedowns, but Brandon still got 2 takedowns. That was like 2 years ago. So, okay, he's a younger guy, 31, probably improved a little bit with the takedown defense, but we just don't know. What are his get-ups like? What does he do on the ground? Does he make mistakes trying to get up? Will he give up his back? I have no idea. Those are all big question marks, and that's why I can't really bet Marcos against anybody who has any semblance of a ground game. And the thing for me here is like the gap on the feet, while I think Marcos is a very clean striker, and I really like how he mixes in the knees and stuff into his combos. Like he's not just throwing just strikes, and he's not just throwing empty knees. He's mixing it all up together, and it's pretty nasty, and it works real well. But I don't think the gap in the striking is super, super wide. I think Castaneda is a pretty good striker in his own right. I think his counter game is very good. I think he's a little bit deficient at range, but Marcos doesn't really maintain range either. He's not out here throwing 1-2s, stepping away. Like he'll go into the pocket too. And that's where Castaneda is best as well. So I think that it shouldn't be too wide. And then if Castaneda starts mixing in those takedowns, which he has been doing, it all comes down to how's Marcos's ground game really. So I don't have a bet right now. I do think Castaneda's got more ways to win the fight. I can see him having success on the ground. I can see him mixing it up, getting a decision. But I'm staying away unless the line improves. I think right now it's just about accurate. And we can move on. Next up, we've got Andrea Lee versus Montana De La Rosa. Lee, 13-9-0, 35 years old. She's 5'6" with a 70-inch reach. De La Rosa, 12-9-1. She's going to be 6 years younger, 1 inch taller, and she's going to have a 2-inch reach disadvantage. Dan, why don't you start us off, brother?
So I was actually at their first fight. I think it was in Greenville, the night that Moicano fought Korean Zombie. And Andrea won clearly 30-27, but when she did get taken down, it looked pretty sketchy. And then you seen her as of late, like clearly she's declined like big time. But then on the other hand, with De La Rosa, she just like hasn't evolved at all. It's like literally the same fighter we've seen the entire time. Like there's no urgency whatsoever. Like she's got skills in some areas, but she just doesn't really like put a stamp on things. Like she doesn't go for it. So yeah, it's tough because obviously you'd want to fade Andrea Lee in this current form, but you can't trust Montana to really go for it. So I'm gonna go Andrea Lee here to get back on track. But I wouldn't trust her at this price in her current form, let alone with the state of judging. Like sometimes like you'll see fights like, for example, it was Lupi Godinez versus was it Tabitha Ricci maybe, where it was 29-28 for one of them twice and then 30-27 for the other one of them. So it's like, whose ass are the judges staring at? Like, so you just have no control over these things. So yeah, it's a pass.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I stopped playing spreads at chalk, like, the plus 3.5, because you could be 100% on point. Your fighter wins one round. That's all you needed. And then all it takes is one bad 30-27, one bad scorecard, and you're cooked. So that's why I stay away from those. But for me, this fight's a pass. It couldn't be more of a pass. I think Lee's got a significant striking advantage. I think De La Rosa's got the good ground game, but I think Lee's a pretty good counter grappler. She's been fighting better grapplers, in my opinion, recently, and she's been doing okay. She's losing the fights, but I think they're better fighters than Montana. I do think that her get-ups are pretty good. I think that her takedown defense is pretty good. She's looking for hand control. She's looking for underhooks. And I just like her striking a lot more. She'll mix it up. She'll go to the body. I think De La Rosa's striking is awful. I think that her striking defense is terrible. So for me, it's Lee, but am I going to go lay minus 150, minus 160 on her? Absolutely not. I've got better chalk to chase. But how about you, Brady?
Yeah, this is the biggest pass for me on the card. I'm kind of surprised by this line move. I'm kind of surprised people have a lot of faith in Andrea Lee. It was like a pick 'em, I thought, like Sunday. Now Andrea Lee's minus 160. Like, I don't know. She's on a 4-fight skid, and she's losing a decent competition, but her last 2 fights, she hasn't looked like even remotely competitive in either of those fights. Montana De La Rosa does have the wrestling to get the fight down to the mat. Anytime somebody tries to take down Andrea Lee, she folds like a lawn chair. Lee won the first fight, but that was a while ago. What has changed since then? Not much, really, outside of I think Lee's regressed a little bit. I think De La Rosa's improved her striking a little bit, but it's still, like you said, Couch, it's not great. I think it's a fight that's close, competitive, goes to decision. De La Rosa mixes in some takedowns. Lee does the better work on the feet. This has split written all over it. It's a pass, but if this line keeps getting wider, like, I'll be forced to play De La Rosa, which I really don't want to, but I just don't see how, people are laying like minus 160 on Lee in the most split decision type fight I've ever seen. So yeah, it's a pass, and I really don't want to bet this, but the line is starting to entice me a tad.
See, that might be a bet. Fight goes to split. It's probably like plus 300 at best, but I feel like it might happen at a higher clip than that.
Yeah.
But all right, we can move on. Next up, we've got, I wish I could say a better fight, but I don't really know if that's the case. We have Brad Katona versus Jessie Butler. Katona, he is 13-3-0, 32 years old, 5'6" with a 65-inch reach. Butler 12-5-0. He's 32 as well. Going to be 4 inches taller, and he's going to have let's call it an 8-inch reach advantage. And he is coming down to bantamweight for the first time. I already forgot who went last time. So Dan, start us off.
Yeah, so Butler dropping 2 weight classes from 55s to 35s. He's going to be the much larger man, but skill-wise, Katona's on a different level. Is just laying minus 700 on a guy who, is known for edging out close decisions. Just doesn't sound like something I'm really willing to do. So you just pure pick Katona. If you want to take a little half-unit shot on Jessie to find out, okay, I'm not going to. But yeah, I'd rather just say Katona wins a boring decision and then never talk about this fight ever again.
How about you, Brady?
Yeah, I saw Katona at minus 500 on Sunday, and I started laughing because it's hard to imagine Katona minus 500 against anybody in the UFC. Now he's like minus 650 I see minus 772 out there. So it's like, man, you don't want to lay this type of chalk on Brad Katona, who's not finishing anybody ever, and quite frank, I don't even think he finishes Butler here. So yeah, I think this fight is going 15 minutes. And at the same time, it's Jessie Butler, who I just don't think is UFC caliber. Like, Brad Katona is going to be the much better striker. Butler, has some okay grappling, but in a lot of his fights, he's getting taken down. He's getting controlled. He's getting out grappled by these lower level guys. It should be Brad Katona doing the better work on the feet. Brad Katona mixing in some takedowns here, and Brad Katona winning a very, very boring, uneventful decision. So yeah, Brad Katona for the win, but minus 625, no thank you. And his decision prop is minus 185, which is crazy. But yeah, it's Brad Katona, but I just don't see any way to bet on this fight. You don't want to parlay up Brad Katona, and you don't want to bet on Butler. So I'm just passing.
Yeah, not to be boring, but there's nothing you can do with this. I really don't know what you do here. Like, maybe late Katona props, but it's not like he puts it on people late. Like, he does what he needs to do to win fights. Very similar to my guy Taylor Lapilus. I think Katona is real good. I think he's very well rounded, but he just doesn't separate at all. His output isn't that high. It depends on the opponent. If he's fighting someone like Cody Gibson who stands right there with him, then okay, yeah, he'll land a ton. But someone like Butler, I just don't know what to make of it. And Butler, yeah, he can grapple a bit, but Katona's got pretty good takedown defense. He's got good grappling in his own right. I just think he's the skill level above Butler pretty much everywhere, if not like 2 skill levels above. But what am I supposed to do with minus 600? I'm not going to parlay it, that's for sure. Maybe parlay him and who's the other outrageous favorite? Rayanne Amanda. That might be the lock of the week. I'm playing, but yeah, let's not waste time. There's better fights to talk about. Moving on. Now, this one is fun. We've got Charles Radtke versus Carlos Prates. Radtke 9-3-0. He's 33 years old. I'm pretty sure the only 33-year-old of the card for our experiment. 5'9" with a 72-inch reach. Prates 18-6-0. He's 33 years younger. He's going to be 4 inches taller. Yes, I think so. And a 6-inch reach advantage for him. Brady, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I think this is a fun fight. I think these next few fights we talk about are going to be very fun fights. I feel like Radtke's getting a little bit disrespected here with this line. Like Prates minus 230. He is going to be the much bigger guy in this matchup. I love the striking, but in his debut against Officer Trevin Giles, he was on his way to losing that fight. Like he was on his way to being down, 2 rounds and having to potentially get a finish in the third. Getting outstruck pretty much 2-1 by Officer Trevin Giles, which I think Giles is a good fighter and all, but he got the second round knockout, which is good. But I just feel like Radtke has some paths here as a really big dog. The first path would be landing a big shot. Prates is very hittable. He's been knocked out before, and Radtke showed that he has some power. And then another path is going to be testing the ground game of Prates. What does Prates' takedown defense look like? What does his get-up game look like? We don't know. I did see some fights where Prates is getting taken down. They were from a long time ago, though, so I'm sure he's improved since then. But yeah, it wasn't the best look. So yeah, in a fight where I feel like Radtke has some paths here, I feel like this line's too wide. I'm going to go with Radtke to get the win. I feel like it could be a knockout. I feel like he could potentially implement some grappling as well. But yeah, I'm going Radtke in this one, and I do like some type of under as well. I think somebody's getting served here. Prates has a ton of power, and like I said, Radtke as well has power too. So I like an under, and I like the Radtke side.
Yeah, makes sense to me. Like for me, Prates is at a good gym. He's at Fight Nerds. He's training with guys like Barallo, like who's the guy who just kicked the shit out of Jamie Malarkey? What's his name again? Rufy.
Mm-hmm.
Guys like that. He's at a great gym, and you can tell with the striking. His striking is very solid. I really like Prates. He's super violent. He mixes in knees, elbows. He's got all of the weapons. But yeah, that last fight was kind of concerning with Giles. Like, what happens if he couldn't get that finish? Like, are you just losing to Giles in 2024? Not the best look. Like, he comes out there a little bit low output, but so did Rufy in most of his fights, and then he came out and just butchered Jamie Malarkey. So maybe he's getting better. Maybe he's going to change, but I'm not banking on like assumptions. I rather, if anything, I'm going to play the dog. I haven't done anything yet. Radtke, I think he's pretty durable. I think he's a solid striker. He clearly has a lot of power. That was a beautiful underdog cash against Urbina, but that was a much easier opponent. And I think the line was similar there as well. I think he was like plus 170, plus 180, if I'm not mistaken. And I think this is a much harder fight for him because Radtke, he's got pretty good grappling, but he doesn't ever use it really. Like he almost never goes to it. So I can't come out here and say, yeah, I like Radtke. He's going to grapple because I don't know that he will. He might just try and stand and strike with Prates. And in the pocket, he might have a ton of success. But at range, I don't know if he has much for Prates there. So it's a dog or pass for me. But I do think Prates is very good. I do think he's improving. And I could see him being something. So right now, I'm just stepping away. And maybe this is a fight that I'm going to come back and retape. How about you, Dan?
I got a bone to pick with both your arguments.
What's up?
Let's hear it.
So y'all thought that there were some questionable moments against Trevin Giles, right?
Yes.
Mostly him not doing much.
So tell me what's worse, having a couple questionable moments against Trevin Giles or having a couple questionable moments against Blood Diamond?
I knew you were going there.
Also, answer this for me. What happened when Dricus du Plessis, UFC world champion, and Michael Morales, super prospect, fought Trevin Giles? They also had issues up front because Trevin Giles is a seasoned, experienced UFC vet who's fast, explosive. But what's Trevin known for? He'll do great in all these fights, and then he self-implodes. Trevin's never a guy who just gets beat down pillar to post in fights. It's always like the Mearshart fight. He's beating his ass, and then he gets tapped out. What was it? Zach Cummings? He's beating his ass, and then he gets tapped out. Michael Morales and Dricus Duplessis. Oh man, Trevin Giles is about to set back these prospects. Then he gets finished. So same thing happened here. Trevin Giles was doing his thing against Prates, and then he got flatlined. So that's like a reoccurring thing. And you can give Prates kind of a pass because it was his debut as well against the guy who has a history of performing like that against prospects. Whereas Radtke, while I think that he's, a serviceable guy, he's well-rounded, he's decent everywhere, not good, and he's a jack of all trades. He's going to be the guy who's at an experience disadvantage in this spot. He's the guy who was just struggling with Blood Diamond 2 fights ago. I don't give a shit if he had to take a 30-hour flight for that fight. If you're losing rounds to Blood Diamond, what do you think is going to happen when this guy, Carlos Prates, he's not one of these 5-0, 6-1 guys making their UFC debut and got hyped for no reason. This guy came into the UFC with a 17-6 record. This guy's seen some shit. And I think that this is a tailor-made matchup where he's going to come out here and flatline Charles Radtke. I think that he's going to extend his knockout streak, and people are going to be like, oh, okay, so let's give this guy that kind of like, not maybe a Neil Magny, but like a Jake Matthews next. You know how they've been giving all the prospects Jake Matthews? Let's see what Morales could do against Matthews. Let's see what Rowe could do against Matthews. After Prates flatlines Radtke, let's see what Prates can do against Jake Matthews. So, yeah, I'm going Prates here, and I'm not convinced this is dog or pass.
All right. Yeah. I mean, this is definitely one that I want to come back to, but what do you guys think about this? Any value in the under 1.5? I believe that it's plus 110, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't mind the under 1.5, but I would prefer maybe the 2.5. Get that extra round in there, but I think somebody's getting served.
How about you, Dan?
Sorry, what was the question?
How do you feel about the under 1.5 at plus 115?
I mean, I'm not going to plant my flag and say that's what's going to happen, but could I see it? Sure.
All right. Yeah. And for me, I mean, I just hate under 1.5. I just hate them in general. Like 7.5 minutes. You're just begging for the finish. It's too stressful for me. I
pull up Lou's counterpoint real quick.
Lou's counterpoint. Okay. Let's see. First, the under 2.5 hat. You should never bet an under 2.5 hats on my panels. Convinced Brady and Mike want you to be poor. I would never. Counterpoint. Talked forever about the debut stunt. How doesn't it apply to Radtke, who looked infinitely better next fight?
Great question. Here's how it doesn't apply to this fight. Blood Diamond, Urbina. These are bottom of the barrel cans. These are guys that are going to end their UFC careers 1-3, 0-4, stuff like that. Like, they're not going to get past their first UFC contracts. Giles, yeah, at the top 15 level, okay, Giles isn't going to cut it. But Giles is an established UFC vet who's been in the company for how long? Like I said, Blood Diamond and that Urbina dude, they ain't getting past their first contracts. Like Giles, how many contracts do you think he's had with the UFC? Like, how many fights has he had? He's had over 10 fights, right? Like Giles, like, yeah, he'll get embarrassed by real guys, like by Dricus Duplessis, by Morales, by Prates, but like Radtke, like, could still like arguably be on the regional scene. Like, let's keep it 100. I'm not trying to disrespect Radtke at all. He's a well-rounded fighter, but like Radtke, like, couldn't you guys see him in an LFA main event like right now? Whereas like there's no doubt in your mind that Prates belongs in the UFC right now. That's my opinion.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, there is an argument at 9-3-0 that Radtke could still be on the regionals. So, and I think the Blood Diamond fight was on short notice, if I'm not mistaken.
You want the shoey bet? Listen, you've beat me the last couple shoey bets, so I'm so due for one that you got yourself a deal, young man. Air handshake.
There we go. On the Couch Warrior podcast, episode 100, we've got the shoey bet between Dan and Lou. Let's get it.
And I'll tell you what, since I'm a good guy, we're not going to do a 50-50 shoey where like if I win, you do one.
You'll give them dog odds?
If you win, I do one. No. If you win, I'll do what, 2.3?
I've done those before.
I'll do 2 shoeys if you win.
All right, there we go. 2-1. Lou loses, he takes 1. Dan loses, he takes 2. Love it. All right. And Uncle Wheezy, what's up, Wheezy? Fight doesn't go up minus 180 is my play. I don't hate that at all. You know, if I was looking to parlay something, that might be a parlay leg that I would use. But we can move on. Next fight up, we've got Thiago Moises versus Ludovit Klein. Moises 18-7-0. He's 29 years old, 5'9" with a 70.5-inch reach. Klein 21-4-1. He's 29 as well. He's going to be 2 inches shorter, and he's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. Dan, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I'm not getting in Ludovit Klein's way right now, man. I mean, have you all seen the pictures, guys?
Yeah.
Like, this guy's been harvesting the garden of life fruits and vegetables in a way where he's headed straight to the top 15. And, you know, I respect Thiago Moises. I'd consider him to be a young, experienced vet and a true gatekeeper to the top 15. Like, if you're not ready for the top 15, Moises is going to exploit that. But I think that Klein, he's shown glimpses, like, since day one against Shane Young, glimpses in the Mason Jones fight. But I really feel like those last two against Ignacio and that, week notice replacement guy, he treated him like a 1 week notice replacement guy. He's looked like a guy that could be in the top 15 here soon. So as long as he doesn't end up on his back, I think that he might have something for Moises. So I'm going to go Ludovit Klein here to extend his win streak and possibly get into a top 15 showdown.
All right. How about you, Brady?
Yeah, I agree with Dan. I think Moises, that's a good way to put it, is a top 15 gatekeeper because you look at some of these losses, man. It's like Benoit Saint Denis, Joel Alvarez, Islam Makhachev, Damir Ismagulov, Benil Dariush. All of his losses are against incredible guys. So if he does lose to Klein, it probably will be his worst loss in his career. But yeah, I like this matchup for Klein. You know, Klein has really good takedown defense. He's very physically strong. If he does get taken down, there could be some problems. But Klein, I think, is a black belt as well. Obviously not to the degree, anywhere near the degree of like a Moises. But I think if he does get taken down, it's like not the end of the world. He'll be okay. But yeah, I think he has the defense to keep it standing. And when it is standing, I like the striking of Klein a lot more. Concern with Klein would potentially be the cardio. We saw him slow down in the Landwehr fight, but that's Landwehr. And I don't think Moises can be able to push a pace like that. Yeah, I like Klein to keep it standing, do the better work on the feet, and maybe even get a knockout here. Klein hits very hard. He has that nasty head kick as well. I could see him maybe landing something on Moises. So, yeah, I like Klein here. Probably just on the money line. I could see him winning by knockout or decision here.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I'll make it 3 for 3. I played Klein when he was minus 120, played him to win 1 unit. For me, it's funny. Like, people love and hate Moises. Like, it just depends on what happened in his last fight. He loses, next fight up, he's a bum. Mitch Ramirez has a great shot. And then he comes out, he beats Mitch Ramirez. Now people are saying he's going to sub Klein. He's going to beat Klein. He can. Moises is a high-level guy. He's well-rounded. He's a pretty good boxer. He's very good on the ground. His wrestling is pretty good. But I think Klein's a tough matchup for him. I think Klein's improved a lot. My favorite bet of last year was Klein over Bahamondes. Everyone was calling me a dumbass for that, and I'm very often a dumbass, but that wasn't one of them. That was a good bet. And then also somehow got his knockout prop at like minus 110 last time out against AJ Cunningham, who's a punching bag. That was fantastic. I think this is going to be a much harder fight, but I do think he should be able to win here. I think he's the better striker at range. I think he's the better striker up close. I think he's got a significant power advantage. I think his takedown defense is pretty good. I saw some people saying like he has like bad moments when he's on top and Moises is this high-level BJJ guy. Absolutely, but why the hell would Klein shoot for takedowns here? He's not an idiot. I don't think he's going to come out here and shoot for takedowns. I think people are still kind of low on him after the Jai Herbert fight. It's time to let that go. Things happen. I think this is Klein's fight to lose, and at slight favorite, I think he's a good play.
Yep.
Let's see what we got here. That'll be fun. I mean, I love these guys, man. There's a reason I brought them on. They were the reason I started doing content, so I'm always happy to do a show with them. And Uncle Wheezy saying Moises has trash wins, but he's losing elite guys. It's hard to know how he does against a guy like Klein. Yeah, absolutely. It does make sense. I mean, look, it's possible he comes out here and he has a ton of grappling success, but from what I've seen with Klein, I think he's got enough to keep it on the feet.
I love Moises in a spot where like he's in there with someone that has zero business in there with him, like that Meziquel Costa guy. I think I laid anywhere between like minus 230 to minus 300 straight on Moises because like like I said, if you don't belong in that even top 25, like Moises is going to go ahead and expose that. But man, Klein's been doing his thing lately, so let's see if he's ready.
Yes, sir. Let's see. But we can move on. Next up, we've got, I mean, this is just kind of the battle of the busted prospects. We have Punahele Soriano versus Miguel Baeza. Soriano 9-4-0. He's 31 years old, 5'11" with a 72.5-inch reach. Baeza 10-3-0. He's 31 as well. He's going to be, I'm so bad at math, guys, I swear. I think he's 2 inches taller. Am I wrong? No, he's 3 inches taller. See how bad I am? And he's got a 2-inch reach advantage. Before I pass the microphone to, I think it's Dan who's going first this time. We are on the main card, so I would like to take one more shot for the 100th episode, if you guys will indulge me.
Yes, sir.
So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Some good Casamigos. You know, we only do the good stuff around here. Cheers, boys! Thanks for joining me.
Cheers.
All right, let's get it. Dan, start us off.
Yeah, man. Who thought we would have been at this point with Puna Soriano losing 4 of 5, Miguel Baeza being on a 3-fight skid with 2 brutal knockout losses in his last 2. Like at one point, these guys were like promising prospects. Punahele kind of got that one-hitter quitter. He does have a wrestling background, but we haven't really seen it much offensively. We did see it a bit defensively against Maximov. He showed a lot of flexibility in that fight. So basically here, Baeza, very technical, good left hook, good jab, calf kicks, black belt in jiu-jitsu, tall, but with that being said, doesn't really move his head off the center line. And where's his confidence at? Because he was a very confidence-based fighter. So Puna is probably going to get picked apart in this fight until he either knocks out Baeza or until he loses this fight. So it's just what do you think is going to happen? Because some of those counters that Puna was landing against Stoltzfus in that last one, I was like, God damn, I was surprised Stoltzfus didn't go down. And I'm wondering if Baeza will go down. But at the same time, like Puna is going to be there to get picked apart by Baeza. So I lean with Baeza, but I ain't trusting this guy, no chalk price. And I don't have much faith in Puna either. So it's a pass for me, and I hope to enjoy an entertaining fight.
All right. How about you, Brady?
Yeah, I think this fight is awesome. I think the matchmakers did a really good job putting this one together. But yeah, in terms of betting on this fight, I'm not sure. Like there are just red flags on both these guys. With Baeza, we haven't seen him in like 2.5 years. The last time we saw him, he got knocked out by Andre Fiallo. And I went back and watched Baeza early in his career, the Contender Series fight against Victor Reina, and then his debut against Hector Aldana. The Matt Brown fight was good, and then Takashi Sada. And I was really impressed with what I saw. You know, really good striking from Baeza. Has the black belt and mix in takedowns as well. Got that nice arm triangle against Takashi Sato there. And then it's like his next couple of fights, like losing to Ponzinibbio, not the worst look in the world. Losing to Chaos Williams, not the worst look in the world. But the worst look in the world is losing to Andre Fiallo when he got caught in that fight and knocked out brutally. Since then, like, what's he been up to? You know, he's taken a lot of time off. So, yeah, I'm not sure what to think of Miguel Baeza. I think he's extremely talented, but like the chin is really concerning. The striking defense is really concerning. And Soriano, it's very hard. Soriano is going to be cutting down to welterweight for the first time in his career. Looks to be looks a lot different, I think. So I do want to see him on the scale, but I think he will make weight. He looks like he does weigh a lot less than he once did. Looks like he lost a lot of muscle as well, which maybe it will benefit him, maybe it won't. But yeah, I just don't have any faith in Puna either. Like this is a guy that looked okay in the first round against Stoltzfus. He landed a couple big shots. Stoltzfus was rocked on multiple different occasions, and Puna didn't follow up on any of them. I think kind of trying to conserve his energy. And then he's still gassed out in the second round. So I don't have any faith of Soriano winning a fight that goes past 5 minutes. So, yeah, I don't know. This is a sketchy fight in terms of putting any money on it. But from a fan perspective, I really like this fight. I got to go with Baeza. I think he has a lot more ways to win. I think if this fight reaches the second, his chances of winning skyrocket. I think he can mix in takedowns as the fight goes on. I think he's going to have the better cardio. But Puna, he does one thing really well, and that's go out there and throw bombs And if one of those bombs land, we could have a, Andre Fiallo situation here. So yeah, give me Baeza, but I can't imagine laying minus 195 on this guy. I just can't imagine. Obviously, I like violence, but I'm not, laying minus 240 to the under either. So this is a one big pass, but I love this fight. I think it's a fun one.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, I don't remember if it was it last year or this year? It was this year. So one of my favorite bets this year that I made was Dustin Soltzfus over Soriano. Got a ton of crap for that one, and that felt really good. But look, at this point in this fight, it's dog or pass for me. And I'm strongly considering the dog because I know we're all low on Soriano. I know a lot of us lost our parlays against Stoltzfus, not me, but a lot of us. And I get it. I get why people are kind of throwing him in the trash can. But at the same time, there's a reason that he was a favorite. There's a reason that people were high on him in the first place. His striking is pretty good. He's got a lot of power. He's athletic. He's training at a good gym. He's got a wrestling background that he doesn't exactly use, which is kind of disappointing. I think if he mixed it up, that would be a really good thing. Like mix it in with your boxing, use that power, go upstairs, then go for the takedown, put that threat of the takedown in Miguel's mind, mix it up. I think it could work out for him real well. We don't really know where Baeza's chin is. I mean, getting knocked out by Chaos Williams isn't the worst thing in the world. That happens to a lot of people. But at the same time, then you get knocked out by Fiallo. I wouldn't say it's the worst thing ever. I know Fiallo isn't the best mixed martial artist, but he's a great boxer. He's a great striker, and he does have some power. So can't really fault him too much there. But also, where's the confidence at? After that Fiallo fight, I think Baeza even said to Andre, he was like, "This is it for me," something like that, like something along those lines. He was like, "Yeah, this was like my last shot," and he was, he was probably right at the time. I was surprised that they brought him back. I was surprised they brought Soriano back too, but it's a tough one. I don't know what Baeza's been doing. I don't know why he's been out for so long. I don't know if he got cut and he got brought back in. I don't know if he's been injured. I don't know if he was doing something else. He's got an advertisement for a lawyer in his description of his Instagram. So then I immediately did a deep dive. I wanted to see, did he go to law school or something? Like, is that where he went? Like, is he a lawyer now? Doesn't appear to be the case. So I really don't know what he's been up to. On paper, I do think Baeza is the better mixed martial artist. I think he's the better striker at range. I think he's the better grappler. I think he's got the better jiu-jitsu. But I also see ways that Soriano can win. I think he can be competitive on the feet. I think he can get a knockout. If he decides to finally use that wrestling background, that is something that is available for him. He is at a really good gym. I love Extreme Couture. He's only 31. Still think that's pretty young. So, yeah, for me, if you make me place a bet right now, it's going to be on the underdog, and I very well might end up getting there. I just have to think about it a little bit more. Let's see what we got here real quick. Zach Johnson, what's up, my brother? Thanks for tuning in. Dalton, you too, bro. Thanks for pulling up. Said this in Wheezy's chat, but Puna laid off the spam fritters for this fight. Yeah, I think Glenn Bott was saying that Puna's looking better here. So let's see. He is coming down to welterweight. I think that's fine. It's not like he was a gigantic middleweight in the first place. So hopefully it'll work out well for him. And if I place that bet, hopefully we can cash that dog ticket. Moving on, we've got Julian Marques versus Zach Reese. Marques 9-4-0, 34 years old. He's 6'2" with a 72-inch reach. Reese 6'1-0. He's 4 years younger, 2 inches taller, and he's got a 5-inch reach advantage. Brady, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, another fun fight here. I'm getting, pretty big fraud vibes, I think, from Zach Reese. Like, I went and watched a lot of his fights, and he's looking good against some of these lower level guys and, handling them accordingly, knocking them out, subbing them. But I'm just not sure, what is his game plan going to be? He's a very long and rangy guy who I think is still very green in the striking. He has good jiu-jitsu off his back, and you watch a lot of his fights, even on the Contender Series, he got dropped instantly and then gets a submission off his back, and the Brundage fight ends up on his back instantly and then gets slam knocked out. Like, is that going to happen here? Is Marques going to take him down? Or I don't know, how does Zach Reese win this fight? I think how he wins this fight is, Marquez's chin just being completely dust, which that might be the case. But yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons to like Marques here. I think there's a reason this money line's moving a little bit. He actually opened up as a plus 160 underdog. He's now minus 135. Marques has fought the much better competition by a mile. I think Marques has the much better striking by a mile. I think he's a tough dude. He's been to the second round. Like Zach Reese hasn't even been to the second round yet in his career. So I think there's a lot of reasons to like Marques. The only thing holding me back is it is Julian Marques, and he got just beat really bad pillar to post in his last fight against Marc-Andre Barria, which, getting knocked out by Barria is not the best look, but that's Marc-Andre Barria. He's pretty decent. So, yeah, I think it's Marques or pass. The money line's gotten away a little bit, but I still, like I said, I'm getting kind of fraud vibes from this guy, Zach Reese. I'm not sure his UFC caliber.
Yeah. For me, like, so with Marques, I actually don't think he was like getting beat pillar to post in the last one, because I remember taping that fight being like, I think Marques is a little bit better, but I think Marc-Andre Barria has the better gas tank and can tire him out, so I passed. And the first round, I remember Marques just beating the shit out of him, and I was like, damn, why didn't I just play him? Like, why didn't I trust myself? And then he gets exhausted, MAB takes over, and he loses that fight. This is a fight for me. It's really hard to get a read. I was never super high on Zach Reese. I bet him on the Contender Series just because that guy, I think Aronov, he's not good at all. So I was confident. I think I played like -135, -125 Zach Reese. I think Reese is powerful. I think he's a pretty good striker. His grappling is pretty decent. It's been really hard to get a read because the competition has been such crap, like horrible. But and like we still didn't get any answers, like he came out against Aronov, a slightly better guy than who he was fighting on the regionals, got knocked down immediately and then got the sub. And then he fights Brundage, and Brundage pulls a Brundage and gets that knockout, cashed the Brundage plus 220 ticket. That was beautiful. But I can't really get a read on the guy. And with Marques, I have a pretty good read on him. I mean, he's a good striker. He can wrestle. He's got pretty good jiu-jitsu. But his cardio is pretty crap. I don't trust his chin all that much. So for me, it's a pass. I don't really want to risk like putting my money on this one. If I had to, I would go with Marques. Like, he'll be my pick just because he has fought the much better competition. He's been out of round one. I think he's more well-rounded, and I have more reason to trust him. But at a slight chalk, I don't know if I want to do it because I can see Zach Reese coming out here and landing a really good combo and putting him out as well. So right now, it's just going to be a pass for me. How about you, Dan?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I do have to run. I have a call I have to attend, but I'll just give you quick thoughts on the rest of the card. So I agree with you guys. We just don't know shit about Zach Reese. Like, we know about Marques. We don't know shit about Zach Reese. He could come out here, start him early, could get extended, and we just don't know anything about him. So by default, you got to set Marques the favorite just based off that, but nothing would surprise me there. Bruno and Stoltzfus. Bruno can definitely catch him early. You saw Stoltzfus is very susceptible, but man, if Stoltzfus can get you to the 7-minute mark, like make it an ugly fight, I think he's got a path here as a dog. So I think that's for sure dog or pass situation. Rosas and Tercios, like you got to respect Tercios, like seasoning, his experience. He's a true vet, but man, even in the fights he wins, they're of the thinnest margins, which as a plus 200 dog, hey, take it by a thin margin, but don't expect him to come out here and dominate Raul. If he's going to win, it's going to be like a comeback type win. So I'm going to go with Raul there. And then Jacoby and Reyes, like the John Jones fight took everything out of Reyes. Like in all his subsequent fights after that, he's like, the Jan fight, he's talking about John Jones. The Yuri fight, he's talking about John Jones. The Span fight, guess what? He's talking about John Jones. If he's talking about John Jones again this week, go ahead and full send Dustin Jacoby because this guy is completely ruined. At his best, he's an athletic guy, kind of has a point fighting style. But Jacoby, like, I know that he's not at the top of his game per se, but his recent losses are honorable losses, like in the sense that like people thought he beat Khalil. Mirzakhanov is a demon right now. And the Alonzo fight, he was winning until he kind of coasted a little bit and got caught at the very end. So it's not like he's getting blown out the water. Whereas Reyes, the Yuri fight, that's the kind of knockout you don't come back from. And when he did come back, he got knocked out by a jab. So it's like this dude is, I think it's the fight game is brutal, my guys. And then Cannonier and Imavov, that's a tough one because Cannonier looked career best, landing 240 strikes his last fight. And Imavov, ever since the Strickland fight, he looked amazing against Chris Curtis. and against Dolidze. So they're fighting each other at an interesting time. I think that Cannonier kind of gets off the slow starts a bit. You saw that in the Brunson fight. You saw that in the Vittori fight. And Nassourdine is going to have a speed advantage early. But if Nassourdine gasses like he has in other fights, Cannonier looked like he could go all day last time. So, man, if this fight goes all 5, it's going to be real interesting to see how the judges score it. I'm going to lean a little bit with Nassourdine, but I expect it to be greasy. So, congrats on 100 episodes, my man.
Thank you, my brother.
Finally get to do a show with you. And shout out to everybody watching. And hope you all kill it this weekend. Thank you, bro.
Thanks for coming on, Dan.
See you.
Yes, sir. Peace out.
You guys have never done a show together?
No, we haven't. I think this is our first one.
2 OGs of the game, man.
It's the first for everything.
Hell yeah. But all right, you went here, right? You talked about this fight.
Yeah, I think we're all thinking Marques.
All right, let's move on. Next up, we've got Bruno Ferreira versus Dustin Stoltzfus. Ferreira 11-1-0. He's 31 years old. 5'10" with the 72-inch reach. Stoltzfus 15-5-0. He's 32. He's 1 year older. Going to be 2 inches taller with the 3-inch reach advantage. Before I continue, we have 202 people watching live. Please, thank you for being here. But please, if you're on Twitter, like it, retweet it, help spread the word. If you're on YouTube, please like it, comment, subscribe. That really, really helps. I'll start us off here. Like I mentioned before, Stoltzfus, he's my guy. He's my guy because he pulled it off against Soriano when no one believed in him. So I love the dude, and I've got some bias. But you know what? I had to go back to the well with him here. I played him at plus 220. I only did a half unit, and I'll explain why. So with Ferreira, he's another guy where it's kind of hard to get a great read on him because his fights just aren't going too long. From what I see, I don't think his striking is that high caliber. I think a lot of his combos are just kind of these flurries that he puts together to close the distance. He depends on his power. His grappling is pretty good offensively. He's got the throws. He'll occasionally go for a takedown. Pretty decent timing. His takedown defense seems pretty good. And even better, I think his get-up game is very, very solid. So he is a pretty good fighter. But he's kind of hard to trust. I don't exactly know where he's at. Getting clipped by Ruziboev, okay, Ruziboev's kind of a giant. He caught him, whatever, it happens. But with Stoltzfus, we know what we're getting, Is he going to be a champion? No, he's not going to be a champion, unfortunately. But is he a well-rounded fighter? Yeah, he is. He's a pretty good boxer. I was pretty impressed with his work in the last fight out against Soriano. He's pretty durable. I know he's been hurt before, but he's only been knocked out once, and it's when Abus Magomedov front kicked him to the face. And I think that knocks out most middleweights in the UFC, if you ask me. So I don't really put a ton into that. He's got pretty good wrestling. He's got good jiu-jitsu. I know he got caught by Gerald Meerschaert, but what prospect doesn't get caught by Gerald Meerschaert late in the fight? And a guy like Ferreira, we don't know how he's going to be extended because he doesn't really – none of his fights get extended. Is he going to get tired? He very well might. But if you're betting him at like minus 270, minus 250, minus 260 – you better hope that his cardio is good because if he doesn't put out Stoltzfus, I think Stoltzfus can take over. I do think Stoltzfus can land takedowns, particularly later in the fight. On the feet, I think he's competitive. He doesn't have the power of Ferreira, but if he can handle the power coming back his way, I think he's the actual better striker if we're talking just straight technique. And because of that, at plus 220, yeah, I'm going to take the shot. I would have done a full unit, but again, I am a little concerned because Ferreira does have good get-ups. And if he comes out here and just clips Stoltzfus, I could see a world where he knocks him out. But at plus 220 for a half unit to win just over 1, I am willing to trust the chin. I am willing to trust the fact that I think his cardio will be better if the fight extends. And I do think he's competitive on the feet as well. What are you thinking, Brady?
Yeah, it's definitely a dogger pass. Like I struggle to see how anybody could lay minus 275 on Bruno Ferreira when he hasn't even been 7.5 minutes his entire career. He's never went over 1.5 rounds. He's been to the second round twice, and he was able to get finishes in those second rounds early on, like within the first minute of that second round. So, yeah, if Stoltzfus is able to survive these first, 5, 6, 7.5 minutes, his chances of winning go all the way up. So if I was to play Ferreira instead of laying minus 275, I'd probably just maybe play the round 1 prop, which I'm guessing it's not great. And maybe the Ferreira in the under 1.5, something like that. But yeah, it's a dog or pass. I'm going to be looking at this fight from a live bet standpoint because I think there is a pretty good chance that Ferreira does come out there and spark Stoltzfus. But if this fight hits the second or even like gets late into the first and Ferreira's clearly slowing down, looking tired, I'm going to be looking to live bet Stoltzfus. So I think that's how I'm going to attack it. But yeah, pre-flop, it's certainly a dog or pass, but I do have a feeling Ferreira is going to knock him out. I think Ferreira has real power. And I think he probably does knock him out in the first round. But if it gets to the second round, I think it gets very interesting very quickly. And I think if it gets to the second round, you have a good chance of cashing that Stoltzfus ticket.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think the live angle is a good one too. I'll be looking. I only got a half unit stake so far. If he survives the first and he's like plus 300 or more, I'll probably add another half unit. And like with Ferreira, his power, yeah, it seems good. But at the end of the day, who do you knock out in the UFC, right? He knocked out Greg Rodriguez, who's a beast, but his chin is just like, I don't even know what to call it. Like, he doesn't get knocked out often, but I mean, the dude's getting hurt every damn fight. And then he knocks out Phil Hawes. And, I was really glad that happened right after 2023 ended because I went into the new year with a new rule. I don't care how much better a guy is. If his chin is gone, I'm just going to stay away. And I stayed away, even though I thought Phil Hawes is much better. And I saved myself some money there. So
good.
The rules help, Brady. The rules help.
They do. They certainly do.
That one and don't play spreads at chalk so far have been working out pretty decent for me.
Yeah, I'm done with spread. I'm done with spreads. I'm done with split decision props. I'm done with anything involving these crooked, corrupt judges. I can't do it anymore.
It's just not like it's not possible. Like if you're hitting them, you're kind of just getting lucky that you're not getting the shit judges at that fight in particular.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, let's move on. So this one got canceled, I think, because Rosas got grounded or something.
Yeah.
And then rescheduled. I don't know if that was true. Did you see the post I'm talking about?
No, he got grounded. What?
There was like a post. It was like a quote from his dad, and it said like he got grounded for like doing something, so they wouldn't let him take the fight. I don't know if that's true. I mean, the kid was 18 years old at the time, or like 19. So I don't know, but it makes for a funny story. But we have Raul Rosas Jr. versus Ricky Torcios. Rosas, he's 8-1-0. He's 19 years old, 5'9" with a 67-inch reach. Torcios, 12-3-0. He's 31. So he's 12 years older. He's going to be the same height, and he's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. Start us off, Brady.
Yeah, so these two were supposed to fight at UFC Mexico, and I remember that the talk of the town that week was the elevation, right? So now there's nothing to worry about here with that, and yeah, I did have that in the back of my mind, the elevation, because Raul Rosas typically doesn't have the best cardio as well. I wanted to see how he kind of fared with that, and I was kind of sketched out on it. I think I did play Raul Rosas Jr. in some type of fashion, and then it ended up getting canceled, I think right before they were starting to walk out or something. Yeah, I'm sticking with my pick, Raul Rosas Jr. I'm just not sure how he gets it done. I think it could be really any method. I'm kind of leaning decision, though, just because Tercio seems pretty tough to sub. Raul Rosas Jr., I don't think he has much ground and pound, much power. I know he knocked out Terrence Mitchell, but come on. Yeah, I know. So I'm thinking Raul Rosas Jr., thinking by decision, 30-27, 29-28 at the worst. I think it's a bad matchup for Tercios. Tercios has just terrible takedown defense. What I will say, though, is he has a really good get-up game. He's hard to hold down, but if Raul Rosas Jr. wants him down, he's getting him down. I could see Raul Rosas going out there and getting like 10 takedowns here. So the only concern would be the cardio, but I think worst case scenario wins the first 10 minutes and gasses out, and I don't think Tercios is finishing him. So 29-28 at worst for Raul Rosas Jr. Not sure I'm going to play it yet. Maybe a decision prop for Raul Rosas. I don't know if I'll get to the money line, but I do like him to win this one.
Yeah. In terms of a pick, I'll go with Rosas Jr. here. But in terms of playing him, can I do it? Not really. He's 19 years old, almost 20, but we don't know what the hell's going on in his head. Maybe he got grounded last time out. That's a possibility. And I remember myself, I'm not that much older, but it's been 7 years now since I was 19. But I was a pretty big dumbass. And to trust him at like minus 200 unless he's fighting someone like Terrence Mitchell. It's kind of hard. Really good grappling, very solid control once he takes your back. The jiu-jitsu is very solid. The striking, developing, it's developing. I think that Tercios could compete on the feet. I don't think that Rosas is like leagues better than him in the striking. It might be that Tercios is the better striker. The issue with Tercios is that he's so inaccurate. Like his accuracy is horrible. He's hitting just straight air for the entire fight. The output's good, but it's not landing. So that's kind of problematic. But on the feet, if we're just talking a striking match, I think it's pretty competitive. But you mix in the grappling, Tercios is getting taken down a lot. Natividad took him down 7 times, I think. He got taken down by Brady Heastand, I think 6 times, something like that. But like you mentioned, his get-ups are pretty good. His scrambling is pretty good. His own jiu-jitsu is pretty decent. So I do think that he's live to make this close. I do lean the Rosas side, but in terms of a bet, I felt pretty good about the fight goes to decision at minus 125. Can I see a world where Rosas does get a submission? I can, but I think the most likely outcome is Tercios is able to fight out. He's able to get back up, keeps it close on the feet. Rosas lands another takedown, and on and on and on and we go. So rather than pick a side or parlay Rosas or take the shot on the dog, who I don't trust, I'd rather just play fight goes because I think it hits at a higher clip than minus 125 suggests.
Yeah, that's not a bad number at all.
Yeah, I was going to go with the over 2.5. That's what I had the first time the fight was scheduled, but I had it at the same line as I do now at the fight goes because now the over 2.5 is like minus 155. Yeah. So I just took the extra 2.5 minutes and hopefully Rosas doesn't get the sub with 2.5 minutes left.
Yep. Agreed. I like it.
Moving on, though, we've got our co-main event of the evening. We've got Dominic Reyes versus Dustin Jacoby. Reyes 12-4-0. He's 34 years old, 6'4" with a 77-inch reach. Jacoby 19-8-1. He's 36. He's 2 years older, 1 inch shorter, and he's going to be at a 1-inch reach disadvantage. I'll start us off. I thought for sure pre-tape that I was going to bet Reyes at this number. I was like, recency bias. I know he's been knocked out. And to be fair, all 3 guys who knocked him out are pretty powerful dudes. Jan Blachowicz, Polish Power, Yuri Prochazka. I mean, the dude's just a demolition machine. And then Ryan Spann, he might be pretty ass, but Ryan Spann hits like a train. I can give him that much. I know it's just a jab, but the dude does hit really hard. I do think, Dan, like he mentioned, it seems like Reyes has never really recovered from that split decision. I mean, from that close decision loss to John. He does keep talking about it. It kind of reminds me of the whole Peter Yan, Aljamain Sterling thing when he needed him, and then he kind of just went on a downtrend. But he came back, and it's possible that Reyes can finally come back. I think that skill for skill, the line makes no sense. I think Reyes is very competitive on the feet. Jacoby's the better straight kickboxer for sure. I like his output a lot. I like his leg kicks a lot. His strikes are straight. He's got the jab. He follows up with the 1-2 straight down the pipe. But I think he can be taken down. I think he can be controlled. I know he's shown good takedown defense for the most part, but we have seen him out grappled. And while Reyes isn't coming out here and wrestling off, and he's certainly not a wrestler, he has mixed it in. He did it against Jiri, and I think it would be a smart game plan here. Come out, use your striking, because I think Jacoby's a better striker, but not by a league. I do think Reyes is competitive on the feet. I think he's got more power than Jacoby does. And mix in some grappling, like at least make him think about it. And I think that this could be a competitive fight. And I can't blame anyone who's taken the shot. I don't know if I will, just because even if you put the chin aside, I still think this is a fight Jacoby can win. Outside of getting a knockout, I think Jacoby can still pull it off. I think he's got a higher output, and I think he's a cleaner striker. But I do think it's pretty competitive, and I do think the line's a bit off. How about you, Brady?
Yeah, I'm not even thinking about touching this one. If I don't know, like if Reyes isn't washed and isn't completely shot and isn't a bum, this line makes no sense. Like I agree. Like if Reyes comes in here and he's not a complete washed bum with no chin, I think it's pretty much a 50-55, maybe slight lean dust in there. But yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out, because yeah, you're looking at his losses and these aren't terrible losses at all. John Jones in a fight that a lot of people thought he won, Yuri Prochazka, the Ryan Spann one, that's, you don't love to see that, but Ryan Spann is a monster in the first couple minutes, so you can't hold that against him too much. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is certainly a dog or pass. It's just, man, if if I put money on Dominic Reyes and it turns out that he is a washed bum, I'm going to feel just terrible about myself. So yeah, it's a pass. Dog or pass. I think I'm leaning Jacoby by decision maybe. These overs have been getting smashed, and I think it does go over, it does go to decision. But if Dominic Reyes' chin is indeed completely shot, if this guy's done, Jacoby could knock him out. So yeah, this is one big giant pass, and I'm staying far away from this one. This one is probably the biggest pass on the card for me, outside of like the Lee De La Rosa fight. But the pick is Jacoby by decision. -240 is silly though, but maybe it's not silly. Maybe he looks -1,000 and sparks Dominic Reyes. We'll have to see.
Yeah. Would you rather play Dominic Reyes or Brad Katona?
I don't know. I don't want to do. How much are we talking? How much are we playing? Like a unit?
You gotta. Yeah. Let's say a unit.
Okay, I'd put a unit on Brad Katona to win 0.2 units and call it a day. Give me my 0.2 units.
All right, there we go. I don't hate this look. I don't hate Reyes by decision because I could see him pulling it off. That's a pretty wide line.
If it goes to decision, I think it's very, very close.
Especially, now it's like the line's really coming. I was shocked that over 2.5 is +120 now. It was like +160, 170 like yesterday. And Fight Goes is +145, and it was +200 the last time I looked. So lines really come in. But if you think it's going to go the distance, like you got to think Reyes has got a pretty decent chance. So yeah. I might take a sprinkle on that decision prop. We'll see. Moving on, though, we've got our main event, and I'm pretty damn hyped for it. We've got Jared Cannonier versus Nassourdine Imavov. Cannonier 17-6-0, 40 years old. He's 5'11" with a 77.5-inch reach, and he is coming off of that injury. Imavov 13-4-0. He's going to be 28, so he's 12 years younger, 4 inches taller, and he's going to be at a 2.5-inch reach disadvantage. Why don't you start us off, Brady?
Yeah, fun fight. I like this fight a lot. I think this is a fight that's going to primarily take place standing. I think it's a fight that probably goes 25 as well. A lot of these middleweight 5-round fights just always seem to go 25, no matter who's fighting. We saw Imavov go 25 with Delidze. We saw Cannonier somehow go 25 with Vettori in a fight where Cannonier hurt Vettori on multiple different occasions. Vettori hurt Cannonier early on as well. So yeah, I think it does go 25, and yeah, I think it's competitive. Jared Cannonier's 40 years old, but, even at 40 years old, he's looking really good as of late. That Vettori performance I really liked. Had some other pretty good performances as well. His last loss comes against Israel Adesanya, which there's no shame in that. I think that Imavov's going to look good early. I think he's going to have a good speed advantage early, maybe volume advantage early as well. But as the fight goes on, the cardio Imavov is a little concerning. We've seen him slow down in some 3-round fights like the Buckley fight. And yeah, Cannonier is a guy that seems to get better and better as the fight goes on. The volume seems to check out for Cannonier. The cardio seems to check out for Cannonier. So yeah, I think it's going 25 minutes. It's Cannonier or pass for me. I'm not sure I'm going to get there. With these corrupt judges and in a fight that goes 5 rounds, like we've seen some wild scorecards in some of these 5-round fights. Just last week with Costa and Strickland, a judge actually scored the fight 49-46 for Paulo Costa. It's the most mind-blowing thing I've ever seen in my life. So yeah, I think it's a split decision type fight. I expect Imavov to have early success, Cannonier to have late success, and we'll see what these shit judges think.
Yeah, man. I feel like they have to start doing something. Like, you can't just do that. Like, that card was pre-filled. I don't care what anyone says. That card was pre-filled because I don't know how you can get there. I don't know how you could possibly get there. I was very down for Costa to win. Had his finish only, but I was cheering for him because he's funny. But that dude didn't even come close to winning that fight. That was crazy. And then the guy gives Raposo the win too. And I had Raposo, and I was still like, dude, like, come on.
That was probably worse than the Costa scorecard. I mean, Raposo didn't. Yeah, that was shocking. That was shocking as well.
I feel like if you're really not looking at the right things, there's a way to get to Raposo, saying he kind of won round 1 and 2 because he threw more to the head. But like, I can't even think of a way to explain Costa winning that fight.
And then there's another one. There was like, I think somebody scored the fight for Cesar Almeida against Coppola, which
Right.
was weird as well.
But that one, like, I kind of get, because then you get into the whole damage versus control argument.
Yeah. Oh, well, Kopylov won round 1 and round 3, I thought. Round 2, you can give Almeida, but I don't know how you can give Almeida round 1 especially. But round 3, I guess maybe you give him round 3 because he did a little bit. I don't know. I didn't like that call there.
Yeah. Saul it wasn't even the problem this week, Sharks. It was, what was that dude's name? I don't know.
Dave Torelli.
Torelli. Never again. Never
Terrible.
again, hopefully.
Terrible.
But yeah, in terms of this fight, you took the words right out of my mouth. It's Cannonier or pass for me. Imavov is 12 years younger. He is very good. He is improving still. The Chris Curtis performance is very good. But here's the way I'm seeing it. Like, he moves really well, and he's not going to be as easy as to hit as like a Costa or even a Strickland, right? Because Strickland, he's got good defense upstairs, but he doesn't really move his feet a lot. And Vettori, he's just like a walking punching bag. Like, he'll just walk forward. He's the perfect guy to just get a high output off on him. Imavov moves, but he also slows down. And after the second round, or like towards the end of the second round, that movement, that jumpiness, it kind of stops. And then round 3 and then round 4, if there is one, he's flat-footed. And if you're going to stand flat-footed in front of Jared, he's going to hit hard, and he's going to hit you a lot. The only reason I haven't played him yet is I am concerned about the injury. You know, it was a, what is it, MCL injury? I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And he is 40 years old. But, you know, in terms of the age, he was 39 when he beat the shit out of Vettori, who was like 10 years younger than him. I think Vettori was 29 at the time. So age, okay, we can throw that away. But the injury I am a bit concerned about. I usually ignore injuries. I ignore the whole, like, what was it last week? What did they say Costa and Islam had again? What's it called?
Staff.
Staff, yeah. I used to ignore staff. After the Islam fight, I'm kind of taking it serious because I think that was pretty legitimate. So, yeah, I'm trying to be more serious about the injuries. I'm trying to consider them more. So I'm staying off for now. But in terms of the matchup, I really do think this is a decent shot for Cannonier. Like, Imavov is a great striker at range. He's very crisp. He's good kickboxing, nice kicks. But Cannonier is also a really good striker, and I don't see Imavov really mixing in takedowns here. I know he went for it against Curtis, and it was pretty shocking because Chris Curtis had this 100% takedown defense, stuffed 23 takedowns from Rodolfo Vieira, and then Imavov, a kickboxer, comes out and takes him down. I think he almost took his back too. So that was pretty surprising, and it shows Imavov's improving. He's only 28 still. This is already his third main event, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it's a risky spot, but I am still leaning Cannonier. You know, he's gonna have the power edge. If anyone's gonna get a finish, I think it's probably Cannonier. I have a hard time seeing Imavov put him out or put him away. Definitely don't see him subbing him. So yeah, it's dog or pass for me. We'll see. I would like a slightly better line on Cannonier if I was going to take the shot, something better than plus 105, but we'll see what happens with that. Glenn Bott, let's see what he's saying. Jared, ACL. I thought it was an MCL.
If it was ACL, there would be some serious concerns, but it was MCL, which is not as
What's
bad.
the difference?
I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical professional, but what I do know is MCL, it's not too bad. I think it's a couple weeks. I sprained my MCL grade 2, and I was like walking and practicing the next day. But if it was grade 3, that could be like up to 6 weeks, I think.
Okay, that's good to know. So then hopefully he's all right. And you know what? Knowing that, I feel a little bit better possibly taking the shot. If he goes up to like plus 120, then it'll be an easier click for me.
Yeah, ACL could take like months to heal from, like months, especially if you're 40, like months. But I'm pretty sure it was an MCL though.
And it's been almost a year now. He must have recovered by now.
Yeah.
But all right, guys, that is UFC Louisville. Thank you all for tuning in. We've got 236 people watching. That's the most we've had in quite a while. So I appreciate you guys pulling up for the 100th episode. And I appreciate you, Brady, very much for coming on. Really like breaking down fights with you. It's always a good time. Why don't you tell the people what you got going on, and then we'll head on out.
Heck yeah, man. Congrats on 100. That is awesome. Shout out to you for that. DFS by the numbers on YouTube. getting really close to 25K subs. I think I'm like 70-ish away. So if you guys have not subbed, please do me a favor and do that. Probability going live in about like 28 minutes. My math sucks, but 28 minutes with Uncle Weezy. And also with Uncle Weezy, we're doing Stat Diggers on my channel, DFS by the Numbers, every Sunday. And that seems to be really growing, and we're looking to keep growing that and improving the quality as well. So yeah, thanks again for having me on. Shout out to Dan for coming on as well. It was a fun show.
Hell yeah. Thanks again, Brady. Thank you guys all once again, and peace out and good luck this weekend.